Good day, grade 10 learners. Welcome to our mathematics lesson. I am Skulile Ngube. This lesson is proudly brought to you by the Gauteng Department of Education. Right, I hope you are ready for the lesson, grade 10s. Let's make sure that our books are there in front of us and our pens and calculators. Okay, right, let's be ready for the lesson. How are the examinations? I really hope you're passing. Okay, right, now we are going to look at the measures of spread. Measures of spread. If you check some books, they'll say measures of dispersion. Measures of dispersion. So those are the measures of spread or measures of dispersion. Right. In the last two lessons that we did, what did we do? Do you remember? We did measures of what? Measures of central tendency. Okay, that was the mean, the median, and the mode. Right. Are those measures of central tendency enough to represent a data set? We have to find out in this lesson. Okay, do we need to have measures of spread to have a good picture about a set of data? Yes, we need measures of spread. You see that we're going to discuss that. So let's just start our lesson. At the end of the lesson, you should be able to summarize data using a 5-number summary. 5-number summary. So the name itself, there must be 5 numbers. We're going to talk about those 5 numbers. And then we're going to draw and interpret the box and whisker diagram. Okay, if time allows, we'll draw a box and whisker diagram. And then analyze and make meaningful comments on the context associated with the given data. That's what we're going to do in this lesson. Right, we've done statistics, measure of central tendency. We've also done the range. We're going to use our knowledge about these things in this lesson. Right, I want us to do this baseline activity. Grade 10s, I want us to do this. It's very easy questions. We have 2 questions. This is question 1. After doing question 1, we're going to do question 2. Right, I want you to answer the following in 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Let's try. Right, let's mark our work, grade 10s. Let's mark our work. Given the following data, the data is already arranged in an ascending order from the minimum to the maximum. So I've answered A and B there. What is our minimum value? What is our maximum value? You see that? Our minimum value here is 1. That's the minimum value, the lowest value. And then the maximum value is 22. Mark that. That is your maximum value. So remember we said we're going to talk about the 5-number summary. We have 2 already. The minimum and the maximum is one of them. We're left with 3. You see, okay, right? One, I can say is one of them. There are 2 things here, okay? So the minimum and the maximum, right? We have 2 now of them. We're left with 3, okay? Right. And then what was the next question? Determine the median of the data set. How did you do it? Remember, we find the position using the formula, this formula, okay? And then we found that the median is in the 6th position. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So again, revising what we did when we're doing what? Measures of central tendency. This is the median. Okay. 9 is the median. How many things have we talked about now? We've talked about the minimum. We've talked about the minimum value, the maximum value, and the median. We have 3 numbers now. Do you see that? 2 to go to get to our 5-number summary. Okay. Right. And then now determine the range, but the range is not going to be part of those numbers. Okay, don't confuse them. The range is not going to be part of the numbers. In the 5-number summary, we have the minimum value, the maximum value, and the median, not the range. Okay, but we asked to find the range here, so it is the maximum value minus the minimum value, so the range is 21. The range is 21. Mark that. And then this is the second question. Given the following data set, they are different. These data sets are different. Determine the median. I want you to do that. And then if the data given were learners' marks out of 20, interpret the data using the median value. You find the median, and then after that, just discuss or say what is the meaning of that. Interpret the data using the median value. I want you to do this in 3 minutes. Let's do it. Right, welcome back, grade 10s. Let's see this mock our work. So here there are how many items? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So now we say half of 10 plus 1, which is 5,5. So it means the median is between the fifth item and the sixth item. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, between the fifth and the sixth. So it's between 7 and 9 there. Which number is that? So we say 7 plus 9, which is 16, divided by 2, which is 8. So our median is 8, between 7 and 9. The median is 8. Mark that. Right. And then what is the meaning of that? When you're saying the median is 8, what does the median do? What does the median do? Let's check. How many items do we have before the median? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many items do you have after the median? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do you see that? What does the median do? It divides the data set into two equal parts. Two equal parts, half before the median, half after the median. So 50% of the learners got marks below 8 out of 20, and then 50% of the learners got marks above 8 out of 20. Do you see that? Half, remember, is 50%. So the median divides the data set into two equal parts. 50% below it, 50% above it. Okay, right. Now, let's move on. The following diagrams show sections of the end of year reports for Lerato and John. We can see they are doing how many subjects? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right? Did they perform the same way? Is their performance the same? We want to see. We are going to start by using the measures of central tendency, the mean and the median, and see what we're going to find out here. And then after that, we'll see if we put the measures of spread now. Are we going to get the same meaning about this data? Okay, right. Let's start by finding the mean for both. Okay, we'll do the mean for Lerato. So we add all these numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We add the 7 of them, and then we divide by 7. So it's going to be, the mean for Lerato is 64%. When you're saying your average for your report is 64%, what picture do you have? You're doing 7 subjects. Then we say the average, your average is 64%. Isn't it? We have a picture of all the subjects having a percentage around what? 64%, isn't it? Okay, because the measures of central tendency must represent the data set. Okay, must represent the data set. So if you're saying 64%, it means all the subjects should be around that 64%. Okay, now I want you to try to find the mean for John. The mean for John. Let's do it. Let me give you time. Let's say 1 minute. 1 minute will be enough. Let's do it for 1 minute. Right, welcome back, grade 10s. Now let's see. Even if you did not finish, don't stress. Just copy what I'm going to show you now. Okay, just copy this. So we add all the marks and divide by 7. And again, the mean, the average here is 64%. So Lerato's average is 64%. John's average is 64%. So what can you say? Their performance is, according to the measures of central tendency, their performance is the same, isn't it? Because the average is 64% for both. If they are supposed to get a prize for this mark, both of them will get because they got the same average, isn't it? Okay, right, now let's go to the median. Let's go to the median. Right, the median, remember, the numbers must be arranged from the minimum to the maximum. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The median is what? 65%. Again, the median is 65%, very near to 64%. So the median is 65% for Lerato. Let's check the median for John. So what you can do, don't write a lot of things. Just mean Lerato 64%, and then John 64%. That's the mean. And then median Lerato 65%. And then John, let's see John. John is what? Again 65%. Again John is 65%. So we can say what we have done so far. We have these four things. Mean for John 64%, mean for Lerato 64%, median for John 65%, median for Lerato 65%. Let me just give you 1 minute for you to be able to write short notes. And then after this, we're going to continue discussing. We're going to use what we have calculated so far as we learn about measures of spread. Just 1 minute. Right, so according to the measures of central tendency, John and Lerato performed in the same way. Do you see that? Because the mean is 64%, the median is 65% for both. But are these measures of central tendency enough? Are they enough for us to say, okay, they represent, this data is represented well? Can you really say that? If you check at the marks for John and the marks for Lerato, they look different. If you check there for John, the maximum, the highest mark is what? Is 68%, I think. Yes, should be 68%. And then for Lerato, the highest mark is 85%. And then the lowest mark for Lerato, there is 35%. But for John, the lowest mark there is what? Is 59%. You see that? So these marks are different. So now to have a good picture about a data set, we have to look at the measures of central tendency also. Okay, we're not saying measures of central tendency and then you discard the measures of, sorry, we have to look at the measures of spread also. Sorry for that. We have to look at the measures of dispersion also. But it does not mean that we discard and throw away the measures of central tendency. No, we have to use them both. So we have to use measures of central tendency and the measures of spread to analyze data. Okay, right. So now let's look at the marks for John. I want just to have this picture. Okay, so we had the mean for John and the mean for Lerato. Right, this is the mean for John, which was 64%. Let's check the lowest mark. Where was it? It's 59%, followed by, should be 60%, followed by the 62%, and then after 62, is it 65? Okay. Then after 65, there should be 66, and then 66, there's 60 what? 7, and then 68. Okay, the line represents the measure of central tendency for Jones marks. And then the dotted lines here are the other marks for the other subjects. Okay, before we conclude, let's go to Lerato's information. So this is the mean for Lerato. Again, it is 64%. Right, and then if you check, the lowest mark for Lerato is 35%. You see? And then followed by what? Is it 55%? And then after 55, there's 62%. Then after 62, there's 65%. After 65, there's 68%. After 68, there's 75%. Okay. And then after 75, there's also 85%. Now, the dots here represents the marks for the other subjects. I want you to look at these two diagrams. Can you get something from them? What do you think? What do you think? Which information here? Which information is Lerato's information or John's information? Which information do you think is represented well by a measure of central tendency? If we're saying the mean is 64% and we have a good picture and say, oh, all the marks are around 64%, which set of data is that? Which is represented well by the measures of central tendency? We will say Jones marks are represented well by the measure of central tendency. Why? Because if you check, all the marks are clustered around the mean. We are saying the mean is 64%, then all the other marks are very close to 64%. But if you check Lerato, we are saying the mean is 64%, but there's a mark which is far below 64%, like this mark here, which is 35%. Or there's a mark which is very high compared to 64%, like 85% here. See that? So the data for Lerato there is widely spread out. And then we're saying here, for this type of data, the data is not represented well by what? By measures of central tendency. Do you see that? So that's where the measures of spread come in, so that we can really interpret and analyze the data well. Right. So here, Jones' data is better represented by measures of central tendency. The data is more clustered around the measures of central tendency. You see that? How do you see that? You see that by using the measures of central tendency. Sorry, I'm confusing this. Right, by using the measures of spread. You see this by using the measures of spread. The higher the measure of spread, the more spread out the data is. The smaller the measure of spread, the closer the data is clustered around the measure of what? Of central tendency. Right. So now let's calculate the range for the two sets. Let me just show you. Range is a measure of spread. So Lerato's range is 50% and Jones' range is 9%. Highest maximum value minus lowest value. If you check, the range for Lerato is 50%, which is big. The measure of spread here is high, is big, or is bigger than this one when you're comparing. And then Jones' range is 9%, very small. So what is the meaning of this? What is the meaning of this? We are saying that if the value of dispersion, which is the measure of spread, is large, data items are widely spread out around the measures of central tendency, just like Lerato's marks. And then, if the value of dispersion is small, data items are closely spread around the measure of central tendency, just like the Jones marks. You see that? Okay, right. Range is a measure of spread. There are other measures of spread that you're going to look at. You see that we are going to talk about the interquartile range later. We're going to talk about standard deviation, talk about variance later. But now we're going to concentrate on the range and also interquartile range. So now, when the range is big, is high, or is large, it means data items are widely spread out around the measure of central tendency. When the range is small, it means data terms are very close to the measure of central tendency. Okay, let me just give you 1 minute to make short notes. Right, welcome back, Cretans. I forgot to remind you about our WhatsApp line 079 Please ask questions, give us your input. We'll really appreciate that. Okay, I forgot to remind you when you started the lesson, I started explaining what measures of dispersion are. Okay, right, now let's continue with our lesson. Now, we talked about the median. Do you remember? What did you say about the median? The median divides the data set into two equal parts, 50% below it, 50% above it. Do you remember that? Okay, now we are going to talk about the quartiles. Quartiles, the name itself. When I say in quarter, what does that mean? A quarter means is dividing the data set into what? 4 equal parts. There are 4 parts in what? In the whole number. So in the whole item. Okay. So quartiles divide a data set into 4 equal parts. Quartiles divide the data set into what? 4 equal parts. There are 3 quartiles. Quartile 1, the lower quartile. Quartile 2, the median. Do you remember? We've talked about the median. Divides the data set into 2 equal parts, 50% below it, 50% above it. And then we have the quartile 3, which is the upper quartile. Okay, in 30 seconds, write these 3 points. All right, quartile 1 is the lower quartile. Quartile 2 is the median. Quartile 3 is the upper quartile. Write them down. I'm not going to go anywhere. I'll wait for you in 30 seconds. Right, I really hope you managed to write the 3 points. So let's say this is the blue rectangle there is representing what? A data set. This is the minimum value here by the corner there and the maximum value there. Okay, so this is a whole data set. So we have the median, which is at the center there, dividing the data set into 2 equal parts. I think this is repetition. We say that this means that 50% of the data set is below the median, which is Q2, and then 50% of the data set is above the median, above Q2 there. Okay, now let's talk about the quartiles. So the quartiles now are dividing the data set into 4 equal parts. Remember, the total or the whole data set is 100%, isn't it? It's 100%. So if you divide 100 by 4, it means how many parts do we have? Each part is how many percent? We have 4 parts. Each part is 25%. So it means here between the minimum value and the lower quartile, quartile 1, we have 25%. Okay, from 0 to 25% there. That is 25%. And then between quartile 1 and quartile 2 is another 25%. That is from 25% to 50%. And then between quartile 2 and quartile 3 is another 25%. That is from 50% to 75%. Right, let me ask you one thing before we continue. How many percent is between quartile 1 and quartile 3? Well, how many percent is between quartile 1 and quartile 3? From here up to there. Between the upper quartile and the lower quartile, how many percent is that? It is 50%. 25 plus 25. Right, by the way, quartile 3 minus quartile 1, what is it? Quartile 3 minus quartile 1, what is it? That is the interquartile range. That is the interquartile range. Let me just write IQR here for interquartile range. Okay, so it means the interquartile range represents how many percent of the data set? The interquartile range represents 50% of the data set. The interquartile range represents 50% of the data set. Okay, don't forget that. That is very, very important. Right, let's do the last part. And then from 75% to 100% is another 25%. Okay, so the quarters, they divide the data set into 4 equal parts. 25%, 25%, 25%, 25%. 25 plus 25 here is 50% below the median. 25 plus 25 above the median, 50%. 50% within the interquartile range there. From quartile 1 to quartile 3, that's 50%. Okay, so we can cut off the lower 25%, the upper 25%, and we analyze the interquartile range. When we cut off, we're removing the outliers. Like say Lerato's case. We can say, oh, there's a mark 35%, which is very low. There's a mark 85% there, which is very high. Let's cut off those outliers and analyze these other marks here and see how she performed. You see that? Okay, right. Now, so dash percent of the data set is below quartile 1. Please answer this. You can just say the answers in the classroom there. You don't need to write them down. How many percent of the data set is below quartile 1? Is 25%. Below quartile 1 from here going there. That is 25%. And then how many percent of the data set is above quartile 1? The data set above quartile 1. Is it 25%? No, it's not 25%. What is it? Above quartile 1 means all the way. That is what? 75%. You see? 25, 25, 25. That is 75%. So lower quartile means 25% below it, 75% above it. We talked about the median. We're not going to repeat that. Now, let's jump to the upper quartile. Right. How many percent of the data is below the upper quartile, quartile 3? How many percent is below the upper quartile? Let me change the color here. Let me use another color. Right. This is the upper quartile here. How many percent below it? All the way going there. How many percent below it? That's 75% below the upper quartile. And then how many percent above the upper quartile? 25%. It's very, very important. We're going towards the box and whisker. If you check, okay, right, you may not be able to do it today, but we're going to be able to do it in the next lesson, and you should be able to interpret the box and whisker. So we're going towards that. You must understand now that there's 25% above the upper quartile and 75% below the upper quartile. Okay, right. If you check this diagram, it's almost like the box and whisker. Right, let me pick another pen so that I can show you. What color do I pick here? Right, if you check this part, that's the box. This part, that's the box. And then the whiskers there. And then the whiskers there. You see that? Okay, right. If you are familiar with the box and whisker, this is the revision. Okay, right, let's move on. Now, lower quartile, remember, this is how we find the position of the lower quartile. Remember, in the previous lesson, we did the position for the median. So the position for the lower quartile, we say 1 over 4 times n plus 1, or you can say n plus 1 divided by 4. It's still the same thing, okay? Okay, I'll give you time to write those things down. And then the upper quartile position, or you can say 3 times n plus 1 divided by 4 is still the same thing, okay? Right, please write these formulae down, but remember they are giving you the position of the lower quartile and the position of the upper quartile. They don't give you the upper quartiles, okay? Right, write them down in 1 minute. Right, welcome back. Now we're going to use the reports, still using our reports from Lerato and John. We want to write the 5 number summary for them. Okay, maximum value, minimum value, quartile 2, which is the median, quartile 1, which is the lower quartile, and the upper quartile, which is what? Quartile 3. So how many numbers do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, this is the 5 number summary. The maximum value, the minimum value, the median. When we discussed about this, we ended with the median, say those are the 3. The other 2 now is the lower quartile and the upper quartile, which is 5. If you are asked in the exam to come up with the 5 number summary, it means you must have these 5: minimum, maximum, lower quartile, upper quartile, median. Okay, right, now I'm going to do the Lerato part with you, and then you do John. Okay, right, now Lerato, what is the minimum value here? It is 35. Okay, we write it down. What is the maximum value? It is 85. We write it down. Okay, and then let's find the median. What do we do? The position of the median is going to be median position. Or let me change it. I like using red. It's fine. So median position is going to be, there are how many marks? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right. But this one you can clearly see where the median is, isn't it? We did this also. Okay, I'm just reminding you on using the formula n plus 1, which is 7 plus 1. 7 plus 1 is 8. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So it's position 4. So, okay, position 4. So it means the median is 1, 2, 3, 4. The median here, Q2, is going to be 65. Okay, we've done this before. Okay, so now that's the median then. Right, 65. What about the lower quartile? What do we do? We say 1 over 4 times 7 plus 1. Okay, 7 plus 1 is 8. So it's 1 over 4. It's 8 divided by 4 here, which is 2. So it's position number 2. That's the upper 1, 2. That's the lower quartile. Okay, so the lower quartile there will be 55%. Okay, let me use this space here for the upper quartile. The upper quartile is going to be 3 over 4, that's the position of the upper quartile. And then 7 plus 1, let me just write 7 here. I don't have enough space to do all those steps. 7 plus 1 is 8, and then 8 divided by 4 is 2, then 2 times 3 is 6. So this one is giving us 6th position. Remember, 6 is not the upper quartile. This is the position of the upper quartile. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Do you see that? So this is our upper quartile. And then we get what? 75%. So this is our 5-number summary for Lerato: minimum, maximum, median, lower quartile, upper quartile. Okay? Right. Can you do the 5-number summary for John? And I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Let's do it in 5 minutes. Hope you managed to get the correct answers. Let's mark our work. Right, what is the minimum value for John? It is 59%. The maximum, what is it? 68%. Right, your numbers may not be in this order, it's fine, it's okay. Right, and then, or you can have minimum, lower quartile, median, upper quartile, and maximum, like according to their order, like that. It's still okay. And then what we have the median, which is the fourth item there, is 65%. That's our median. Did you get the correct one for the lower quartile? Did you get 60%? This is our lower quartile, 60%. Okay. And then we have the upper quartile, which is 67%. Okay, this is the 5-number summary for John. Right. Now, this 5-number summary can be represented graphically. We can use a graph to represent what? To represent the 5-number summary. We're going to discuss this graph a lot when in our next lesson, okay, in the other lessons. Okay, may not be the next lesson like Thursday lessons, but in one of our lessons, we're going to talk about the box and whisker. So the 5-number summary can be represented using what you call a box and whisker. A box and whisker, just like the name says, box and whisker. We know what whiskers are. Whiskers, if you look at the cat, those things that come out like this, they're called whiskers, isn't it? So it's something like that. So now, if we have this, we're going to have the minimum value. Remember, the box and whisker must have your number line. Now, the minimum value for John is 59. Where is 59? It should be here. It's on that John's marks are very, very close to each other, okay? Right, but 59 should be here. That is the minimum. Okay, before we go to the number line, let me just discuss the box and whisker, because this one will get a very small diagram. It may not be clear. Okay, let me just generally talk about the box and whisker, okay, before we go to that one. So the box and whisker, obviously we have the box, okay, and the whiskers. You see that? The box and the whiskers. Right. Now, there is the first part here. This is where your minimum value should be. The minimum value. Okay? And then after the minimum value, what do we have? By the corner of the box there, we have our Q1. Now, we just use the symbols. Q1, which is the lower quartile. Okay? We have the lower quartile. And then there at the center, it cannot be at the center sometimes. It can be sort of shifted towards the right or shifted towards the left. We're going to talk about the skewness of data later, okay? So it's not always at the center. So here between Q1 and Q3, we have what you call Q2, the median, okay? And then after Q2, we have our Q3, which is the upper quartile. And then after upper quartile, we have the maximum value. Do you see that? This is our 5-number summary. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is in box and whisker. And then you're going to be having your number line there to show from which number to which number. Okay. What else? We also talked about this gap between quartile 1 and quartile 3. We said this gap is what? Is the interquartile range. And then the gap between the maximum, let me use just another color. I don't have space here. Right, between the maximum and the minimum. This gap here is the range. That's the range. Okay, that's the range. Right, now, let's go back to John's 5-number summary. The minimum is 59, so it should be here. And then where is the lower quartile? 60. Oh, very close to each other. It's going to give us problems. 60. And then the upper quartile, 67. see here. So that's where the box is here. You see, it's not a nice diagram, but it's fine. And then where is the median? 65. 65 is here. Do you see that? Okay, that's where the median is. And then where is the maximum? The maximum is 68, or very close to 67 there, you see? Right, perfect. But you can see that, okay? You see, this is the box and whisker. This is the minimum value here, which is 59%. And then this is the lower quartile, which is 60%. And then we have the median, which is 65%. And then we have the upper quartile, which is 67%. And then we have the maximum value there, which is 68%. Okay, it's a good highlight that we just had here about the box and whisker. Remember, I said we're going to have a lesson about the box and whisker. Okay, right. Now I want you to copy the homework that I'm going to give you and you try it on your own. Okay, right. So this is the homework. It's coming from a past examination paper. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. How many minutes can I give you for this? Let's try to have maybe 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Okay, if you can take a picture, take a picture. You don't need to write, even just try to write short notes. Maybe instead of writing everything there, identify the median time, just maybe median. Determine the lower quartile, you can just write lower quartile, upper quartile, something